Opening a keyboard tells you a lot about the values of the company that designed it.
So you want to open our keyboards and expose ourselves?
Yes. So today we have here a Raise 2 and an OG Raise, and we are gonna disassemble them from top to bottom, starting with the keycaps and the palm pads, and then continue with the body and everything that's inside. So we can learn about how we designed them, what's different between both of them, and some of the decisions that we had to take.
Yeah, there's many differences.
Yes, even though they look very similar on the outside,
yes,
they are completely different in the inside.
Yes, totally.
So before we start removing the keycaps, maybe we can talk a little bit about the palm pads.
Sure.
Mine are super easy to remove because this is the Raise 2 and these are magnetic, so very easy. Can you do that with the original Raise 1?
Yeah, that's a good point. So the original palm pads, we made them with a sticky plastic, although a lot of people may think that this is glue. It's not. It's just sorry, I said plastic, I meant silicone. So it's a property of the silicone. And we thought that this was really cool because your palm pads will never be kind of removed, in the sense of you moved your keyboard and maybe they fall or whatever, and it won't be possible. But through the years, we learned a few things. So the silicone changed their properties with time. So then the softness changed slightly, but most importantly, the stickiness is reduced through time. And also, if the camera can pick it up, it kind of collects dust and so on. So multiple years ago, we thought that this was really cool, but then through time we realized, like, okay, we can probably do it better. And kind of the evolution was this magnetic palm pads.
Yeah, and also construction-wise, well, one thing that had that silicone is that if you wash it with cold water,
yeah,
it kind of recovered part of that stickiness,
yes,
but if you wash it a lot, then it loses that stickiness.
Yeah, exactly.
And also they're fairly hard.
Yeah, so I would say they're firm. These ones, I would say they're soft, right?
So that's something that for the Raise 2 we want, and also the D5 we wanted to improve. I know that from the beginning, when I started working here, you were not satisfied with those palm pads. They were good, the best we could do at the moment, and we tried and we were never able to improve it until we reached to this solution.
Yeah, and although looking from now backward, this looks like it's not awesome. There was nothing like this in the market when we created, and this was so difficult to accomplish that it took us maybe like 4 years to be able to find the right suppliers to make this palm pad.
Yeah, because the complexity, I think we talked about this in another video, the complexity of making something soft but also thin, it's quite hard. And here the complexity of making this has increased a lot compared to the original palm pad.
Yes, so this palm pad is basically has two materials, the leatherette and the silicone. And the manufacturing technique, you have a mold that has this shape. So you put first the leatherette and then you pour the silicone. The leatherette is kind of sucked with air, so it has the perfect shape, right? And then there's another thing on top of to ensure that it's flat. But this one only has two materials, right? If we compare it to this one has the leatherette plus the silicone inside, plus you have the plastic piece that has 3 magnets and this anti-slip, and you have to stick the top part, that is basically like this one, to the bottom part. So manufacturing this one is so much more complex, and what creates extra complexity apart from so many materials and assembling them is this softness. And this is something that the video cannot capture really, and it's something that
you can put it closer to the camera. Maybe we can do this, but yeah, the video cannot capture it perfectly.
But this is so comfortable, right? And when something this flat has this amount of let's say softness, this is quite difficult to accomplish.
So yeah, and also I think that having so many materials, also the tolerances of each material, and it turns into, plays also an important role. Yeah, so you have to be very careful with the manufacture.
Yeah, the more pieces that you have to assemble, the more difficult it will be. And also we need to understand the manufacturing processes. This is not like CNC metal, right? That you have perfect tolerances. This is like a much more, let's say, manual process. Although many people think that keyboards are like assembled in a robotic factory with arms and so on. It's not really like this.
Yeah, it's done by people.
No.
Well, I think there's a machine that is able to put switches in PCBs now.
Yeah, there's a few things that can be done. Yeah, but something like the palm pad, this is a process that requires a lot of people doing multiple steps.
Yes, and also you have to perfectly align these magnets that are here to the magnets that are on the base. And also, even though it seems like a silly little thing, you have to make sure that they have the right polarity.
Yeah, and this is silly because obviously in quality control you will figure out if not the case, but it has happened already in the past to us that sometimes the magnets are flipped. And then you put the ball bud and it wobbles. Yeah, it kind of, it's dancing.
It doesn't want to stay in position because there's a magnet that has the wrong polarity.
But anyway, yeah, that's just part of manufacturing anything, ensuring that it has the right quality. Okay, so let's talk about keycaps. So we have a double shot PVT keycaps, and we've had ABS laser edge keycaps, but there's been some improvements. So maybe you can talk about it.
Yes. So for example, for the Raise 2, we are still going to have PVT double shot keycaps for English languages, that is English US and English UK, which is ANSI and ISO. But for the rest of the keycaps, such as the dash keycaps, now we have laser edge polycarbonate keycaps, which is also a translucent material like ABS, but it's much more flexible. So it allows for more resistance when you pull the keycaps and you put them on. If you do that a lot with ABS keycaps, they can lose their grip. With polycarbonates, they stick better.
Yeah, about being flexible, I like to think this like in a spectrum, you have brittle and flexible, right? So what happened with the ABS is that it's more on the brittle side. So with vibration on the long run or removing and putting the keycap back on, eventually the stem could break, right? But if there's enough flexibility, but not a lot of flexibility, because if there's too much flexibility, you could bend it, right?
Of course.
Then what happens in the right point is that it's not brittle anymore, so it's extremely difficult to break. And it's very resistant. So this improvement in flexibility is not like you can just bend the keycaps, right?
No,
is that actually they don't break, basically.
Yeah, and also what happened with the ABS is with the main keycaps, it was that it completely broke, but it kind of like you had like micro fractures, yes, and that doesn't happen with
this. Yeah, and the stem would slightly open and they will lose their fit, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then they would maybe fall or something like that. So with that improvement, I think we have much better keycaps and we are not losing any brightness or anything. And I think another important thing that we can talk about is why do we have PVT keycaps for English and we have laser edge keycaps?
Okay, yeah, that's a great point. So double shot molds are expensive, and a set of keycaps, maybe a mold would cost 100k plus, right? And what happens is that the PVT double shot keycaps, usually there's a factory that has that mold, that owns that mold. So what we do is we buy sets of keycaps from that factory that owns the mold, right? But if we would want to do, let's say, German keycaps, double shot PVT, then we would need to pay this mold that it's extremely expensive, and the amount of sets of keycaps or the amount of keyboards with German keycaps that we sell will never make sense, right? It's not enough to profit that mold,
yes.
or maybe to go even.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt you, but maybe something that people that are less into this mechanical keyboard hobby or the split keyboard will not understand why you can make so many different languages in ABS, like Dash or Nordic, Spanish, German, whatever, and not with double shot PVT, and it's because the legends are in the mold.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the PVT.
Yes, so basically you inject the plastic, and whatever shape is inside that mold is how the keycaps will come out, right? But laser edge keycaps, basically it's a translucent keycap that then it's painted. In this case, for the white keycaps, it's painted in gray. Then it's painted in white. Well, there's more things happening in the middle.
Different layers of gray, and then
exactly multiple layers of gray, multiple layers of white, and then there's an UV coating that is for protection, and then the laser edge is happening, right? And actually, then I think there's one more protection layer. But the thing is, like, you can have a different shape, a different drawing, and then the laser will just do whatever you've designed, right? And this is just a little, let's say, stencil. A drawing is, for the sake of simplicity, a drawing. So you can change that drawing so you can have different keycaps, right? The drawback is that the laser edge keycaps, because it's paint, eventually it can be eroded, or if you use it for many, many years, or if you try to scratch it, let's say with a knife or something like this, you can remove the paint. But in the case of double shot keycaps, what you will do is you will damage the plastic, but there's no paint, it's plastic. But on the other hand, the double shot keycaps, and the backlight, the translucency is much lower, usually.
Yeah, I think you can see it here, that there's difference in translucency with the same LED intensity. Yeah. There's less light on the original Raise. I think also influenced by the fact that this is the Raise 1 and this is the Raise 2.
Yeah. And another thing to have in mind is that the laser edge keycaps, the resolution is higher than on the PVT double shot. Usually the PVT double shot Legends, they are designed in a way that there's not so much translucent plastic, but you can do whatever on the...
Yeah, they look sharper.
Yes,
I think it's because of one is a mold and the other one is a laser cutting the paint.
Yeah, exactly. So if you try to create a 90-degree angle inside of one of the letters, let's say the I, right? It would never have the shape. It will be rounded on the top, right? And on the other hand, here with laser edge keycaps, we can be much more precise.
So that maybe arises the question: why don't we make all the keycaps laser edge for the Raise 2?
So there's people that it doesn't matter that they look better, that the keycaps look better, that they just prefer PVT double shot because they're more resistant and they don't care as much about the aesthetics or the light and so on. So it's a matter of preferences. If you prioritize, let's say, lifespan, then go for the PVT double shot. But if you prioritize that it looks great and for a reasonable, when I say reasonable, I mean like for many years, then go for the laser edge ones.
Yeah, I think if you go into mechanical keyboard communities or ergonomic keyboard communities, PVT is regarded as better.
Much better.
Even though a great ABS or laser edge keycap like we have can be better than some PVT.
Yeah, totally.
And we think we've achieved a really, really, really good laser edge keycap.
Yes.
With the painting and the legends and everything.
Yeah, and before we did these keycaps, the brands that had the best laser edge keycaps were the gaming brands. We went to many of their factories. We had many of their samples, and eventually, understanding how they did what they did, we were able to create better keycaps. So I would say our laser edge keycaps are the best in the market. If someone has better ones, please let us know.
Yes.
Because this way we can take a look. But yeah, even though PVT double shot keycaps or even ABS double shot keycaps or basically double shot keycaps are more resistant and they're regarded as better, like compared to the best laser edge keycaps in the market, then probably you need quite a high level of double shot keycaps. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can move now to actually disassembling the keyboard and open it, because we've been talking about the pads,
keycaps and so on.
And so on.
Yeah, so well, let's
turn them off and start removing keycaps.
So this is the switch and keycap puller, but you may have seen that we've removed the keycaps with our hands, and that's because in the factory that's how they assemble and disassemble them, and we're used to it, so it's just quicker for us and we know how to do it without damaging any keycaps. But for safety,
use the keycap puller.
Yes, use the keycap puller and you won't have any kind of issue.
So maybe now that we have removed the keycaps, we can talk about one difference between the Raise 1 and the Raise 2 that is you can't really see in plain sight, which is the top panel. We've kind of changed the shape and also introduced some improvements. So maybe we can talk about that.
So the anodized, the brush and brushed on the top and sandblasted on the side are the same. This a look that we think it's awesome, so we've maintained it. But there's a few dimensional changes. So the Raise 2, the edges are more rounded, that we believe it's a little bit nicer to the eye, and at the same time it's slightly thicker in the front, and that's so we can fit the batteries. But apart from that, there's another minor improvement, is that we've made the holes for the switches slightly tighter. So this means that there's less potential movement from the switches inside the holes.
So they clip better.
Yes, exactly.
I think I must say I like this difference of on the edges, the kind of like the radius is bigger now.
Yes, slightly
so it's
bigger.
Softer.
Yeah.
And I think that it's inherited from the Defy a little bit, which is also smoother.
In the Defy, we made all the shapes much rounder, and the Raise 2 is less rounder than the Defy, but more than the Raise 1, right? So it's kind of like a middle ground.
In the middle ground, yes. Okay, so now maybe we can remove the switches and again, actually start disassembling it and opening it. Okay, now that the switches are out of the way, we can start removing the base. But maybe before we do that, if you turn around your base and you show it, you can see that you have the tenting kit of the original Raise.
Yes.
And the Raise 2, one of the big differences between the two of them is that the Raise 2 has this integrated tenting, which, is completely flush with the base. So once you have it folded at 0 degrees, the keyboard sits flush.
Yeah, and this one is around 1 centimeter.
Yes, maybe we can put it next to
each other. Yeah.
Here. Yeah. So if you can see there, that's the big difference. You know, once you had the tenting kit on the original Raise, most of the times you will really use it tented because of this added height.
Yeah.
And and I think this is also noticeable if you put it in 10 degrees. Maybe you can put it in 10 degrees.
Yeah, actually this one is in 10 degrees.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this one in 10 degrees. So maybe you can have the two of them, or maybe it would be better if I do it with that one, right?
No, but it's fine. You can
see that the 10 degrees is a bit lower, also because there's no added height.
Yeah.
Added height here.
Yes.
So that's the benefit. You get this same tenting angles with a lower keyboard, which, as we talked in other videos, is always easier to adjust your posture.
Yes, and there's a few more things. Like this one has 40 degrees. There's 10, 20, 30, 40. But in this case, we have up to 60 degrees. We have more positions.
Yeah, and we have even lower positions. We have
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 35, 45, 60. Right.
Yes.
So you have more positions with the tenting, with the new tenting. It's inside the keyboard. So,
and also it's lighter.
Yes, much lighter.
Because this
is actually quite heavy because this is a metal plate and these are metal legs with metal rods. Everything's metal. So yeah, totally.
It's much lighter.
Yeah.
But even though it's lighter, once you build it, it's as sturdy. You can put your hand here and it will not move at all. You can even lean a bit of weight and it won't.
It's fine.
Yes,
it's totally.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, so you don't need to disassemble the tenting here, but I would need to do it.
So I will just look.
Yes.
Or maybe I can do one side and you can do the other.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so now I will give you this back to you, and let's continue disassembling the base. I would like to point out a little detail. Yes, that the screws for the black are black, and the screws for the silver are silver.
That sounds like a little thing, but it's rare.
Yeah, and also I think another difference is that many keyboards and products hide the screws underneath. We could hide the screws underneath these legs, and it would look nicer, but it would be much difficult for you to open it because you would need to remove the sticker or the legs.
Yeah, and then you damage the product, and then when you want to reassemble it, it's not the same.
Yeah, and you void the warranty. So in our case, opening the product doesn't void the warranty. And another difference that you will see beside the tenting is these 4 screws. These are M3 screw holes. So, and they're separated like, I think 20 millimeters apart. And that way you can design or 3D print attachments that you can maybe attach to a tripod or
to your arms or to the desk. Or
I think we have a video there where we design some holsters
yes.
For the keyboards, so you can be a cowboy. Okay, now for the moment of truth. Let's open it. Be careful because there are some cables inside that we need to remove before completely opening. So I think here, once we open it, is where you can see one of the biggest differences, and that's the base.
Yes. Okay, so there's many differences. So here, the whole base is the lighting system. So the LEDs from the PCB point downward, and then these channels distribute the light to the edges, and that's how we created the underglow. But in this case, it's very different because now we have a battery, and we have the tenting legs, and we have the RF PCB. So then the space for the underglow is just this PCB that you see here. So what do you think if we disassemble it? Can you show it?
It's held together with a few screws. Okay, now that we remove the screws, we can see the LED PCB, which has the LED side mounted. And I think this one is from the DVT, the design validation test. It has fewer LEDs, even though they look like a lot.
Like many, yeah.
Yes, now we have more LEDs instead of 75 between both sides, now we have 107.
Yeah.
So there's more LEDs. So you have a better underglow all throughout.
Yes, and although it just seems like a PCB with a few LEDs, the spacing, it's critical. So the amount of distance between the LED to the edge, so we can get a very nice diffusion. That was super important.
Yes, because in the corners it looks like random. It doesn't look like an even spacing.
Yeah, like here, there's like so many, right? Three in a little group.
But that's because of the different orientations and whatnot. We want to make sure that the distribution seems like a strip that is constant instead of like focal points.
Yeah, there's no dark spots or light spots, so it's even all around. So yeah, we redesigned this kind of PCB with the LEDs pointing downwards, and we turned it into this. So this created enough space for all the components inside.
Yes, I think it's a clever solution, but it was difficult to engineer.
Yes, it was quite difficult, yes.
Okay, maybe this one needs just a little bit of disassembling. This is a low-profile PCB.
Yep.
I think that's something that is different in the Raise 2 too, because now those PCBs are together. Maybe we can open that. Okay, so now that the PCBs are out, you can notice the difference. Here you have the low-profile PCB that was attached to the underglow, and in the new design, they are soldered together, so it's just one piece. And also, we added this, I think it's 0.3 millimeters belt that allows for when you press the switch, it protects the LED, because now the LED is top mounted instead of mounted underneath. You can see that the LED is here, it's top mounted. So that felt protects the LED and also acts as a cushion when you press the switch.
Yeah, so it reduces vibrations. It improves the sound of during the typing experience too.
Yes, and one thing that I don't know if many people appreciate, but we went crazy to do it, is that these LEDs are RGB-W.
Yes.
While those are RGB, they are super difficult to find. We had to change the design of the PCB just because of that, because we had to use top-mounted LEDs instead of reverse-mounted LEDs, and that changes. Now this PCB has more layers, and it's more difficult to manufacture, more expensive to manufacture, all because we wanted true whites.
Yeah, and this is something that when you have true white, no one notices because white is white. But when we had the RGB LEDs, white was kind of pinkish, so this was something noticeable. So we wanted to have a real white light.
And yeah, we also use those RGB-W for the underglow.
Yes.
Once you put white, it will be really
clear white.
Clear white,
yes.
Exactly. And also you will be able to get better top pastel tones, because now that you have that W, you can really, really play with your colors and get exactly the color that you want. So yeah, and another thing that we also included is this foam, which I think the Raise 1.4 already had, but this is new for the Raise 2. There's one more little thing that we can show, and that's those little guys over there.
Yes.
That they're not on the Raise 1. These are, call it Pogo pins, and it's our expansion port. The idea is that in the future we develop attachments for the Raise 2 that connect
to the new joint.
Which has these pins here where you can attach that attachment, if you will, and it will connect to those Pogo pins.
Yeah, and also talking about the joint, we've designed the joint in a different way. So in the Raise 1, the joint was part of the base, and it was a metal sheet stick to the base. In this case, it's a plastic piece that contains these slots for the pins. Yes, and also it has these little slots for the magnets, and also we have the little hole to allow the Pogo pins to get out. So we have better control on the dimensions and the tolerances of this piece. So the joint is nicer now.
I remember on the original Raise, the tolerance between the joint and the top panel, there was sometimes a little gap.
A little bit off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very difficult because that piece was a stamp piece. A stamp piece is basically two, let's simplify it, like two punches, yes. Right? At the same time, and this bends the metal sheet, and sometimes it was slightly off. And this combined with the plastic base, and when you attach it, sometimes it was slightly off. So here we have better control.
Yeah, a separate piece that I must say also feels more sturdy.
Yes.
Because it has these ribs, and it's much better. and it sits, really nicely here on the keyboard. There's one more thing besides we have the battery. Maybe we can talk about that the battery is off the shelf, so you can, if it eventually happens something with it, or maybe it degrades over
all the time, you can change it there.
You can change it. It's not soldered here. It's just a clip that you can unclip vertically. Let's do it with care, but you can clip it outwards. And there you go.
Okay, yes, and we have the battery that you could remove it, but we recommend not doing it because it's stuck with double-sided tape. So if you remove it, then when you try to stick it again, it will be...
Yeah, I mean, you can remove it if you need to change it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Not for the sake of removing it.
Exactly. I think this is the only component inside the whole keyboard that has any kind of glue or something similar, like double-sided tape.
Yes, exactly. And one thing that's also new here is this PCB.
PCB.
The RF PCB, which is held together by these a few screws. So let's remove that too. All of the screws are N3 except the ones for the underglow, which are N2.
Yes, because we needed smaller screws to be able to make it perfect.
Okay, so this is the holder for the PCB, so it doesn't move when you put the neuron underneath here.
Yes,
that makes it stiffer.
Yeah, it acts like it has two functions. One of them, it holds the socket in place, right? So there's less potential vibration or anything. And when you slide the neuron, you can do it easily. And the other one is hold the PCB to the base.
Yes, and then these two more screws holding the PCB to the base. You can even see that some screws are longer than others.
They are different, yes.
And with that, you can just remove the PCB, and this is the on-off button.
Yes, that you can remove it too. Yeah, exactly. And we didn't touch specifically on the underglow ring, but this is part from the base, right? In this case, it's a different piece, and part of this diffusion is the space created between the LEDs and the...
So this will help diffuse the LEDs that are here.
Exactly.
So you can put it back. I mean, in fact, you can put it back without
the rest of the
stuff.
stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So maybe there's one more thing with it. Say, one more thing. There's one more thing, and this is the magnets on this side. Here on this side, you can see that there's 3 magnets that connects with the magnets that are on the pulp pads, and we talked about the polarity. It's very important that when we assemble this, the polarity is right compared to the ones on the pulp pads.
Yes, and you can also see this small gap. This small gap is created because the batteries through time change the dimension slightly. That is normal. So we created this gap, so this gap can absorb this size change in the battery.
Yes, every little thing like this is a manufacturing cost.
Yeah,
and I think at the beginning of the video we said, how companies think and whatnot. We could have made the keyboard
much simpler.
Yeah, and we can have made the keyboard just 1 millimeter taller, so there will be bigger gap. But that would mean 1 millimeter taller for everyone, and for the whole keyboard. And with this extra tooling, we can avoid that extra millimeter just by doing this.
Everything adds to the experience. There's many details that are not noticeable, but we believe that this experience is kind of like something that you don't need to think about it. You just experience it, and then you realize how good the product is. And in some cases, you cannot really explain it. It's more like a feeling, but the combination or the addition of all these details eventually create an awesome product.
Yeah, I think from the repairability standpoint, if you think about it, what actually can break on a keyboard is basically mostly the electronics. Something can go wrong. Maybe you spill liquid on one of your sides and the electronics go bad, or maybe we designed this so there's more space for the sockets, so the sockets are more robust when you pull and push the switches. Yeah,
and you have like ribs underneath, so these lines here of plastic, these ribs are positioned specifically to...
Yeah, so when you put the PCB the other way around, it will support the sockets.
The sockets, exactly, yes.
But that's something that could happen, if you're not careful pulling the switches, especially pushing the switches.
Yes.
You can maybe rip a socket, and then the socket might rip one of the gazillion traces that are here.
That's one of the traces, and this damages usually a column. So yes.
So in case, let's say, that happens, you might not need to send the keyboards to us or change the keyboard. You just need to get a new PCB.
Yeah, you let us know what happened, and then we can send you a PCB, and then we explain you how to do it. So it's not only about the keyboard being easy to open, but at the same time being easy to repair, in the sense that maybe it's easy to open, but if you don't know what to do once it's open, but not only it's easy to open, but it's easy to repair because it's very easy to change components.
And the components are very separate from each other. We could have made that this would be one PCB.
Yeah.
But it would mean that if a component here breaks, you will need to replace both.
Yeah, exactly.
While in this case, it's two separate PCBs. The battery is not soldered or anything. It's just clipped. Everything is as separate as possible from anything else.
Okay, and something else that you can remove are the tenting legs. That usually this is not something you would like to do. But you can. So
yes, maybe you can show them how you can do it.
Yeah,
it's fairly easy. We can start by the side legs, which you can pry inside.
Yeah, you press sideways and you can remove it. Yeah.
Yes, and then we have the rods, which you have to do the same. You press inside, then you pull out. Okay.
Yes, and you can remove it.
And you can remove the other one too. You press, and then remove it, and then. The big tenting leg is really easy to remove. Once you remove the rods, you need to remove the rods, and then you can remove the tenting leg. And you can do that the same.
Yeah, the same with every leg. So
yeah,
and I guess this one the same. You just press sideways.
You press sideways, and you remove it.
Okay, yeah. So everything you pull sideways, and that's it.
Yeah, and let's say eventually something might break because it falls from the desk or something like that, or you have bad luck,
Okay, so as you can see, it's quite simple to disassemble. So what do you think? We do like a race?
Okay.
Who can reassemble the race 1 or the race 2?
A race to reassemble the race.
Okay. Very nice. Okay, so everything, switches, keycaps?
Everything, just to a functional keyboard.
Okay, then let's go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, so we were able to reassemble the keyboards.
We have one test that we haven't done. It's turning them on.
Let's see if they work.
If they work.
Yes,
so maybe you can turn yours on, and I will turn this one on. Okay, mine did turn on.
Dun. Let's see.
Okay. So both turn on. Satisfactory.
Okay. Satisfactory assembled. Okay, so this is how you disassemble and reassemble the keyboard. As you can see, it's quite easy.
You only need a keycap puller.
Yeah, an M3 screwdriver for most of it. If you really want to remove the PCBs too, you will need an M2 screwdriver.
That's for the underglow PCB, but for the rest, you can do it with this one.
With the M3. Yes, and so it's easy to disassemble and reassemble, easy to repair. And we hope you liked it and you learn a few things about how we think about product and where we are putting our effort. And of course, if you have any questions, please let us know. And
I hope you liked it, and see you in the next video.
Yes, see you. Bye.
Bye.